Hello and welcome back to the New York Young Republican Club podcast. My name is Mario Nicoletto. I'm your campaigns chair for the New York Young Republican Club. And I really quick want to just introduce our guests. We have a great show for you tonight, but I'm getting kind of anxious. I can't even talk tonight. Lock in, Mario. Troy Olson, paramilitary commander of the New York Young Republican Club, is here. Troy, how are you?
Pretty good, Mario. How you doing?
I'm tired. Ian, our press secretary for the New York Young Republican Club. How are you, Ian?
I'm doing very well. It's an honor to be here once again. Thank you to all who have joined us this evening. It feels like that the city is having one of its best summers in years, and I might say the whole country.
Yeah, we have a bunch of great topics tonight. We have the MoU with Iran. We have the World Cup. We have a bunch of stuff, but the vibes in New York City, just in the past, 2 weeks. What do you got?
And that's all because of the New York Knicks.
Well, you were at the parade, right?
I was at the parade, but also what we were at. Let's go before that. Let's go before that. Game 4. Game 4. And obviously we don't talk. And excuse me if I've got to nerd out on some basketball.
By all means, go.
Stuff here, but we had a little shindig at the clubhouse, an unofficial event. I hope that's not a leak, but I think we're okay there. But I step out of there. Knicks are down 29 points. By the time I get home, it's within 7, and I'm like, oh my god. And there was still some time left.
Yeah.
And then you had that last shot. And so it could have it would have been a close series if the Spurs had held on to that massive lead, 2-2, going back home, totally different series. So as soon as game 4 was won, that's the beginning of just impeccable vibes. Every granted, it's been 53 years since the Knicks won. I think that's the backdrop to all this is 53 years. That's like a basketball version of when the Red Sox and Cubs won almost. And Knicks are in New York City, the only apologies to the Brooklyn Nets, but it's the only game in town because the Nets were in Jersey. Probably should have stayed in Jersey. The Knicks have never competed for New Yorkers' attention in sports like the Yankees and Mets do, the Jets and Giants.
Well, real quick, Ian, where were you when the Knicks won?
Well, when the Knicks won, I was standing with you after the Sail Away Summer Soiree, our biggest event of the summer, and we had just been kicked off of the boat because our time had expired. So we're all standing on the dock, waiting to see the results of the game, and we were standing in little groups together, probably about 100 or so of us, watching the game on our phones. And we were there at Pier 81 when the city erupted, and we all walked to first the Blue Ruin Bar, and that was on 8th Avenue, and then a few blocks down to I believe the Hilton Hotel Bar. And it was a sea of people. I mean, you could not drive a car whatsoever.
You couldn't move your legs.
The people were the sidewalk had become the whole street, and people were just climbing over each other practically to get to where they needed to go. It was an amazing explosion of camaraderie and just New York City patriotism. And I think it's the best summer launch so far, even though technically today is the scientific first day of summer. But I kind of consider, June 1st to be the real start of summer, or when school gets out. It was incredible, and I'm sort of riding on stolen glory because I'm not a huge basketball or sports
not as
fan.
much as our mayor though.
Yeah.
Like, my God.
I'm happy to partake in the victory.
Yeah,
and then I was at the parade. I was covering the parade for my day job, and we just got an incredible positioning right at the start of the parade. We got to see all of the players and the MVPs and the fans all in one spot, having their moment of glory. Well, I got there at 7 a.m. and it was packed. I was trying to get there at 6, but the traffic was so crazy I couldn't even get in, and so I had to push my camera gear and get through the security lines and all that.
Can I give a shout out about the parade?
Go ahead.
Department of Sanitation, amazing job. It was such a mess if you look at the streets right after the parade, and they had that cleaned up so fast. Not just hours later, it looked decent, but I came down through there over the weekend, so it's amazing how fast they can turn it around when resources are.
And I gotta say that the social media will always make the most crazy stuff go viral.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought that the fans were well behaved, and I didn't. There was the crazy lady on the light post, and there was a couple. I think I saw one police car getting trashed with people jumping all over it. But by and large,
five got ruined totally.
Okay.
But let's be clear here. Those people are most likely opportunists.
Yeah, they're opportunists. The fans that I saw were having wholesome good time. It feels like we're in a monoculture right now, just with the World Cup, the Knicks winning, the 250th happening. I think it's one of the best summers so far that I've experienced just in my lifetime.
This is the most Americana summer I've experienced in like 20 years.
That's the best way to put it. This feels like an American summer.
Yeah.
This feels like the vibes in New York City, the vibes, even just in Midtown alone. I think it was Ian or you, I forget who. I said on the boat, I said at our second annual Sail Away Summer Soiree, if the Knicks win tonight, I'm not leaving my apartment for 2 weeks. It's going to be anarchy. And that same night,
or better say, you're not going to be home in your own bed for 2 weeks.
Listen, I don't. Oh, that's all right. Wow. Okay,
it's a Mario Nicoletto summer.
That is what it is. But anyway, so I would be. Oh, this is terrible for the segue.
Well, happy Father's Day too.
Well, that's what I was going to say. There's happy Father's Day.
Maybe soon to be, Mario.
I don't know. We'll see. I hope not. Happy Father's Day. After that, I got to tell you straight to the camera, Dad, please don't listen to what Ian just said. I love you so much. Pop. You probably don't use the internet, but I love you so much. You two made me into the man I am today. Troy, happy Father's Day. How'd you celebrate?
I celebrated by being a dad all day and being with family, not just my own family, but my kids have 4 of their cousins in town, and I showed them around the city, and that was a lot of fun. So we had 6 kids with us and 4 adults, and so it was a stacked day of just going from anywhere A to B with that many children is it's a production. So
wonderful. Ian, what'd you do? Anything special?
I sat here in the studio all day getting ready for the show, and so no, I didn't. Unfortunately, I live in a different state. So my father passed away last year, unfortunately. So if you do have a father that's still with you, cherish that time. Spend your time with your father. It's the most important relationship that you probably will have in your at least in your young life, and young adult life. Cherish your relationship with your father. I did call my uncle, who I'm very close with, and we had a good
I
chat.
heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So happy Father's Day. Celebrate. If you have, with your father or with your children, it's an important day, and we need to cherish dads in homes, because that is the foundation of a healthy civilization.
Absolutely.
Yep. I did a Civilization Itself bit spiel on this a few months back. More dads in homes would make every social and economic problem easier to solve. And I won't get into the data, but it's unbelievable how much this country would improve across the board for us all if we just repeated and made as a cultural trait and value more dads in homes. And every single and you don't have to, you could guess what the statistics look like, and they are just directly correlated with success at this point.
Absolutely.
With no matter where you're starting from, who you are, what you look like, it's one of the strongest correlations out there in social science statistics.
Well, considering this might be the real summer of love, we might see a lot more American fathers, a lot more New Yorker fathers. But we have a packed show. We are going to be discussing the Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran. We are going to be discussing, I believe we have the reality check coming up soon with Yulia, discussing Europeans coming to America for the World Cup. Let's actually air that now.
Okay, so the World Cup is here, and let me tell you something hilarious. And yes, I am wearing a German soccer jersey. No, I'm not sorry. I grew up loving German soccer, and Freddie is out here doing more for America's image than any marketing campaign ever could. So I felt like I owe Germany a little solidarity. And if you don't know who Freddie is at this point, do you live under a rock? But yes, I'm rooting for the US. I live here. I love it here. Some loyalties you just can't shake though. Kind of like how you can't undiscover Chick-fil-A sauce once you've had it. Now, for years, a certain type of European has acted like coming to America is some kind of punishment. Like, oh, darling, I could never. It's too loud. It's too big, too American. And I'm saying this as someone who was born in Europe, so I get to make fun of us, and so do you guys. We really can be insufferable sometimes. We'll sit in Europe talking about how America has no culture while watching every American movie, listening to every American song, and dreaming about the portions, which we do. And as someone who grew up loving soccer, actual football, not the American kind, sorry guys, I will say the one thing Europeans have always had over us is acting like they invented sophistication. Well, they did not. They invented tiny cups with no ice. But then the World Cup happened. Regular Europeans actually came here, and now they're out here documenting their love affair with this country, like they just found out Santa Claus is real and he brings free refills.
Thanks so much. You're welcome.
This is one thing?
Yeah, welcome to America. You know, I used to be little like you.
Yeah, so while some people in this country, mainly our friends over on the left, but even some on the right, will find a way to complain about literally anything good that happens, actually Europeans are out here losing their minds over the most normal American stuff. Take this German guy named Freddie, who's been road tripping through the South and posting everything. He's been hitting Waffle House, discovering Buc-ee's, which a German visiting Auburn, Alabama to watch Lionel Messi and Argentina play Iceland, stopping at a Buc-ee's and eating brisket sandwiches on a stack of deer feeder corn. Tell me a sentence never before uttered in all of human history. But anyway, I digress. Freddie's been basically having a full spiritual awakening at every stop. We found another surreal place on our way, he says. I know some people will say I'm too positive about everything I see, but this place is crazy. They had a shooting range in the store. In Europe, that sentence would or could get you arrested. Here, it gets you a loyalty rewards card. Give this guy his citizenship already, poor guy. What the heck is he gonna do back in Germany? I mean, he's out here living the full American experience, road tripping through the South, eating at Waffle House, meeting country singers, and we've got people like Mamdani still walking around like they belong here. Just saying. Then there's this Swedish girl named Elsa, who tried Golden Corral and apparently had an actual out-of-body experience at Golden Corral. Man, we really do take these things for granted, don't we? Another European found the big gulp at 7-Eleven, and don't even get me started on the free refills.
I can refill.
Yeah. You want one Coke Zero or two?
I can refill this 1,000 times.
Yeah, but you won't drink 1,000 cups of
You don't know
Coca-Cola.
me. And it's free.
You paid for it. You paid it.
Once.
Bro, slow down. Slow down.
It's cold.
Fabio, slow down. Slow down. Why?
That was good. Because it's free. Yes, please. Thank you. I'm in paradise.
You can say that again. Free refills, by the way, are genuinely one of the most radical concepts in the world, especially for a European. I mean, in France, you pay what, 4, 5, 6 euros for a tiny glass of Orangina, and then you sit there like a sad little man. Here, you get a bucket of Coke for $2, and they just keep filling it forever. This is freedom. This is what they don't teach you in European schools. But it's not just our food and our free refills, although they're great. These Europeans are shocked by how friendly people are. And I can tell you firsthand, as someone who wasn't born here, they're right. I've lived in Chicago, I've lived in New York, then I moved to Southwest Florida, and throughout the years, I've road tripped all over the country. And in these big cities, people keep their heads down, they're in a rush, there's this constant low-level snobbery, in certain circles at least, that honestly feels European. Those Europeans hang out in places like New York or LA with Americans who wish they weren't Americans. Now, what appears to be happening instead with this World Cup is regular Europeans are experiencing regular America and regular Americans. It's as simple as that, and for that reason, many Europeans here for the World Cup want to stay. And that's because they're not the Europeans we normally get. And what these Europeans are seeing is the reality. They're going through Middle America. They're stopping in small towns and regular places where it's a completely different world, where people actually look at you. They say good morning. They hold the door. There's no attitude. There's no snobbery. It's just normal, decent people living their lives. That's the version of the country these Europeans are discovering right now. The one that doesn't have an attitude. The one where people are just normal and decent. And they're eating it up. Meanwhile, some of those same Europeans are straight up admitting they were lied to their entire lives.
For years and years, Europeans have taken the piss out of America. They're so loud, they're so rude, they're so stupid. Why is everything so big? Why do they love their country so much? All of those people right now are eating their words. Because of the World Cup, people who wouldn't normally go to America are going to America. I am seeing reaction videos everywhere. People are loving it. They are loving the food, they're loving the culture, they're loving the people, they're loving the size of everything. People are starting to understand how amazing America truly is, rather than just listening to the media and what other people have told them. Once you truly experience America, you won't want to go anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, makes sense. Because once you experience it, once you experience real America, you won't want to go anywhere else in the world. They're realizing the media has been feeding them the America is a dystopian hellscape narrative for years. Then they land here, eat a quesadilla explosion salad at Chili's, see a flyover before a game, and suddenly they're like, wait, this is actually awesome. Because it is. And here's what's interesting about that. The elitists in this country who've always looked to Europe for validation, they're watching all of this happen in real time and genuinely don't know what to do with it. Because the Europeans they were counting on to confirm their worldview, are currently in tears over ice water. The cognitive dissonance must be genuinely painful. Like, you spent years telling everyone America is a dystopia, and now a German guy named Freddie is going viral for losing his mind over a gas station in Texas. That's really gotta sting. And that disconnect between the elites and the actual country goes way deeper than just culture. You've got anti-American Democrats who've spent decades telling us this place is irredeemably broken. But you've also got the neocons on the right, the war hawk crowd, who have their own version of being out of touch with the regular American. Both of them tend to forget that there is a guy in, I don't know, Zanesville, Ohio, who's just trying to fill up his truck, keep his business going, and not get his kids sent to a war that never seems to end. And that guy, that's exactly who these European World Cup fans are meeting right now. That's who's holding the door open. That's who's saying good morning. That's the America that's going viral. And you see, it all ties together because that same guy, the one in Zanesville, Ohio, filling up his truck, I think he's also the reason the Iran situation ended the way it did, and thank God for that. We went in, we hit the nuclear sites, we did what we needed to do, and we got out. Gunboat diplomacy. Clean, decisive, effective. The administration listened to the country instead of to the war machine. Now, some people on both sides are upset about that. The neocons wanted to keep going. They always want to keep going. And some on the left are just mad on principle because that's their thing. But the average American, he's not naive about Iran. He knows exactly what the regime is. He just also knows he can't afford another 20 years of forever wars while his grocery bill keeps climbing. And for once, that actually got heard in Washington. And honestly, that instinct that let us focus on ourselves energy is the same instinct that built the country these Europeans can't stop posting about. The elites still haven't got it, but glad these Europeans are starting to, because this is a pretty epic moment for America. We're hosting the World Cup. We're headed into our 250th birthday, and we had an epic UFC fight at the White House. The New York Knicks won their first title in 53 years, and now we've got Germans, Swedes, Brits, the French, all kinds of Europeans out here going viral because they discovered Waffle House and Bass Pro Shops. That's not a good summer, that's actually a pretty great summer. Now, we have our problems, sure, every country does, but we also have Buc-ee's the size of a small country, Waffle House at any hour, free refills, and people who will actually help you if you look lost. That's not nothing. That's also apparently more than enough to completely rewire a European's entire worldview in under 2 weeks, which says a lot about both our country and the propaganda. So to all our new European friends currently falling in love with American portions, air conditioning, and small town hospitality, welcome. We're glad you're here. And to the ones still coping and seething back home, maybe book a flight. Bring your tiny Orangina energy and leave it at the door. You won't need it here. The propaganda doesn't survive actually touching grass in the South. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I came here when I was 9 years old, and within 48 hours, I discovered free refills, air conditioning, and the American school bus. Some people spend their whole lives being told this place isn't worth it, and then a German guy with a road trip itinerary proves them all wrong. And that's the reality check with Yulia.
Wow, amazing report, Yulia. I love it as always. Fantastic work. Fantastic work. Now, I want to move into one of my favorite segments of this show. It's called the Sunday Scaries. This explores an alternate reality, an alternate history, where AOC has common sense.
Alexandria has made headlines this week after expressing concerns that persistent fiscal expansion under elevated interest rates could threaten long-run debt sustainability. President Trump, for his part, fired back at the Congresswoman, explaining that capital allocation outcomes are not merely dependent on debt service dynamics. He then encouraged Americans to read his new book, The Art of the Sovereign Risk Premium, Ocasio-Cortez later took to The View, where she expressed concerns to Whoopi Goldberg and Sarah Haynes that market participants were underestimating the second-order effects of fiscal-monetary regime interaction on long-horizon productivity formation. Goldberg is reportedly slated to portray John Maynard Keynes in an upcoming biopic.
All good? We hope you enjoyed those Sunday scaries. Now, with us, we have a situation in Iran or around Israel. Personally, I'm confused. But today we have a memorandum of understanding with the United States and Iran. And with us is Amin Nayebpour. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for inviting me again. Third time.
Of course. And as we know, you are a geopolitical risk analyst and you are our expert on what's happening with the Iran situation in the Middle East, broadly speaking. Can you walk us through what's going on? Because I'm confused.
Sure. So one thing, thank you for saying memorandum of understanding and not deal, because there's a legal definition, differentiation between these two. So memorandum of understanding has two characteristics. One, that is not legally binding. It doesn't even have any legality to it. So, and two, it's extremely vague. So it just gives you the very general things that we are going to talk about. And it doesn't say where we are going to, agree on these points. We're just going to talk about it. And as President Trump says, let's see what happens. So that's number one. How did we get there? 28th of February, President Trump started the Operation Epic Fury. And it's important that he said operation. It wasn't a war. And I think he was right about it because it was just an air campaign. And you never achieve any regime change by air campaign. And he never stated regime change as one of his goals. So after 30 days of operations, it was a ceasefire. Why did that happen? Because the Islamic regime in Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. Oil prices went up. There was lots of uncertainty into the oil markets. And then that's when Trump decided to block their blockade.
Right.
It means that if they don't allow anyone to sell oil, we're not going to allow them to sell oil either. So that actually resulted in a really economic downturn in them, because after that happened
in the Iranians.
In Iran, yeah.
Okay.
So inflation went up to it was 70% already. It went up onto 150. And from the reports that I was getting, you had scarcity of really basic stuff there. So cement, fertilizers, really basic stuff. So actually the blockade was working. But what happened after that was that President Trump decided to go into negotiation phase.
So just to pull it back, right? When it comes, because you said it's not legally binding. This is not anything official.
Right.
Am I right in saying that it's not official?
Perfect,
All right.
yeah.
This is more of a comma than a period in a sentence.
Exactly.
How, because people are calling it a deal. It's not a deal.
Yeah.
It's more of a memorandum. It's exactly what you said. What are the necessary steps to go forward to ensure that the United States military presence in Iran is not warranted? I don't think it ever was warranted, but what would be the necessary next steps in order for us to avoid further air campaigns and further boots in the ground, further war?
So there's a principle in war and international relations that war is a continuation of politics, but with other means. So it's a famous thing by Clausewitz, the famous war general, Prussian war general.
Yeah.
So President Trump said, we want their uranium, and we don't want them to have any enrichment. I think this is what he really wants. The other things are I think they're just tangential. Maybe he wants to, give them some idea of what I don't want or what I do want. So I think it's his tactic. But this, he really wants that. So first he starts with the air campaign. That's one way of getting going into politics. Two, he goes into negotiations. If he gets the uranium, why not? That's a very good thing to do.
How do we know they have uranium? And the reason I asked the question is in 2008, Ron Paul put out a book, The Revolution, one of my favorite books. I'm currently reading it. And we saw that in 2003, there were claims of WMDs in Iraq, blatantly false, right? Same thing for many other countries, chemical weapons, terrorism, many of those claims were false. And whose fault that is, that can be debated later. But how do we know for a fact that there is uranium being enriched for the use of nuclear warfare by Iran?
You never can be 100% certain. That's for sure. So one is you have satellite images, you can guess. And two, there are some IAEA reports that said they have that, and they are credible because they were there on the ground actually. So you can trust them more or less. And also, I'm guessing, you know, the Israelis have really good intelligence on the ground. So they have people on the ground, and they have it's not the first time they have it. Like they had it 10 years ago, last year that they started their operation, the 12-day war. So they confirmed it. So I think there is uranium there as for sure. Maybe, but now is like how deep is it in the ground? Is it like very deep in the ground? Do we even care about, you know, getting it out? But it doesn't matter really. It's a risk because this regime has exhibited some very bad and rogue type of behavior. So you really don't want these folks to be anywhere near this, you know, highly enriched uranium, because you don't know what they're going to do. They've lied before. And funny thing is that I was actually looking at their Telegram channels. This one guy who used to be the political advisor to the previous supreme leader, Khamenei, he was telling that
there was uranium.
That not only that we had uranium, but we were seeking to build a bomb. And he was saying that. And it was not only a plan, they actually wanted to build a bomb. So all this time that they were saying, oh, you know, all this, we don't know about it, they actually did want to build a bomb. And you really cannot trust these guys with these stuff. And I won't even trust them with, you know, ballistic missiles, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
They can hit American bases very easily. I mean, they hit one in Diego Garcia during the operation.
They did, yes.
I mean, you don't want that to happen.
No, never. But gentlemen, you two have been awfully quiet. I want to get your opinions.
Well,
on this.
we're getting our guest the view.
He is the expert. So
he's the expert.
I'm learning as well.
I'll put in my view. I mean, I said it earlier in earlier episodes of the show. I think we're getting into the WMB MD conversation, and obviously I think this country has Iraq war brain. That was my take early on. And I think we incorrectly tied a lot of the early political conversation to that. The reality is Iran and Iraq are very different things. Iran has been the head of a terrorist financing snake since 1979. They totally changed the fate and direction of the region since that time. I agree with you that I think regime change was never necessarily. I think Trump, President Trump, would have liked to see it and would have taken it as a result. But it represented like an A+ version of success. What I think has been instead achieved is a B+ version, which at this point they'll take, and let's get an MoU. We don't, you know, it's kind of we're at a status quo stalemate. Both sides are. Iran has incentives to get to the table. Do we trust them? No, but we're going to put something on a document. I think what we saw the last week is, you know, of course, this is over a much exaggerated time scale, but we saw maybe the end of the first Punic War. The Punic Wars, Roman Carthage. There was a second one. There was a third one. I do think there will be comma rather than a period, if you will, or the next paragraph. I do think we'll see hostilities rise up again, but I think for the time being, both sides have a incentive to tend to other matters for the time being. As you mentioned, the economic pressures on Iran. And I think on the U.S. side, it's more of, we have achieved the B+ victory. It doesn't look like the people are rising up to do a regime change. We don't see evidence of that. And I think there are political, not just with us, but our allies too. There are political domestic coalitional pressures on the president and reasons to get to an understanding and a new status quo. But at the end of the day, I do think the U.S. has achieved something here. We've achieved the destruction of their military and political leadership. And really on the military side, we can go back to Soleimani, who you can tie to the deaths of 800 soldiers in the conflicts that I was a part of. And so this military conflict with Iran has really been much more tied to the global war on terror rubric that did kind of feel like it had an endpoint with the Afghanistan withdrawal. But the absolute driver of that whole paradigm, the Soviet Union, if you will, of if the war on terror is the Cold War, the new Cold War, the if there is a country that is the Soviet Union, it's Iran, and it's Iran, and how it always has been.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I see it from a military and political, geopolitical perspective. And we'll see what the next steps are, but there's no doubt that military, politically, a substantial progress has been made, and the U.S. had 13 casualties. You know, I'm a soldier, I'm a veteran. That's still 13 more than I'd like to see, but considering what has been accomplished, 13 is also how many we lost in the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was one of the most shameful and embarrassing foreign policy fiascos in U.S. history, as far as I'm concerned. So something that actually tangibly has been accomplished. The ball has been moved forward and down the field, if you will, to perhaps a better day for the region. And I can't help but notice the behavior of the countries around the region, and seeing at least some desire for getting back on the Abraham Accords track.
You bring up a very good point, and I wanted to ask this, Amin. So I'm again learning as I go with you, because again, you are our expert, and I'll read all the headlines. I'll read the New York Post. I still don't have a full scope of what's going on. I do know that President Trump wants, and quote me if I'm wrong, the uranium enrichment to totally stop. The Iranians will not stop it.
Definitely.
Is that our red line? Is that the line they won't cross? Because it looks to me like that might be a part of the memorandum. And I don't think either side is going to budge on that. How do we mitigate that? How do we resolve that problem? That's probably the largest issue we have right now, is the uranium.
I think so. Yeah, they're going to agree on many points, but the uranium issue is their existential threat. So, and because one, they think of it as a deterrent, and two, they don't trust Trump. They said, look, JCPOA, we gave our uranium, and you went out of it, and that was a good move by Trump, actually. And three, you were telling us that we're negotiating, but then you attacked us. So they have a full skepticism of Trump, and their uranium is their card. And I don't think they're going to give it away for sure. My guess is that because why does America want their uranium? Basically, you can put all of this in the rubric of Iran behaving like a normal state. Right now is really a rogue state. Is financing all these terror networks, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and their proxies in Iraq, which killed a lot of American soldiers. And nobody talks about that, because they all talk about the Houthis and the Hezbollah, which are the big ones. But they had like all these small proxies in Iraq, which were very responsible for American blood. But going back in the 80s, they had this big explosion in Beirut that killed also American soldiers.
1983.
Exactly. Yeah. So they've shown a consistent behavior of a rogue nation, and you can tolerate that thing to a point. After that, when you see that so I think Trump is kind of building a new world order, which is basically he wants to come, which resembles actually Nixon's doctrine, which he wants to come out of the Middle East and put one of his allies there, which I think is UAE and Israel. So America can focus on China. But it cannot just, go out. It's going to create a vacuum. It's going to be the same quagmire that was in Iraq. So it has to make this regime weak enough so those two can take care of it. Do regime change, do whatever they want. I see it in that way. So America can come out and focus on the Western Hemisphere and China. And but imagine if the scenario that you have Iran as an ally of America, like previous in the revolution, you're basically controlling that extremely important waterway, which is supplying China with 70% of its oil. That's a huge.
That's massive.
That's incredible. And if he achieves that, I think he's going to be one of the greatest presidents in American history.
I'd agree. I think President Trump is the first actual realist president we've had since Nixon. I think every president in between Nixon and Trump believed in some version of a liberal international order, which I've always felt is a bit like the Holy Roman Empire. Wasn't liberal, wasn't international, wasn't much of an order. and it largely served a very narrow set of interests, largely multinational corporations and the diplomatic globalist elite, basically. And I don't think it made the world any safer either. I think what President Trump is doing, and what serious thinkers that do want to see a safer world are seeing in his actions, is that reorienting of global order, which looks a lot more like a chessboard. And I get that of course on the left in American politics, they're going to hate whatever Trump does.
Yes. So
that's a given. And I saw the early polling out of this support for MoU, and it's plus 43 support for it. So that's huge support, which is another big reason I think this is happening. Not just coalition tending, but it also relieves a lot of political pressure and sets up Trump and the Republicans well for the midterms. But it was that plus 43 was like 56 and then 13 against it. That's a whole lot of people not weighing in. And those are basically Democrats who are also with the 53, who just can't let Trump have any victory because it breaks their worldview. And then the 13 is probably, I mean, those on the left criticize. I mean, it's very weird because the anti-war left is always
just to pull it back super quick,
very pathetic. But there is an anti-war right out there that I think you're representing and you're trying to.
Well, I think Troy wanted to hand that off to you, but I just want to say from a communications perspective, and Ian McMath here, president. It's not president. President of nothing. Excuse me. Starts with a P though. Press secretary of the New York Young Republican Club. I think that the communications of the Trump administration has been pretty consistent throughout this whole conflict. And when people tell me to clarify what's going on, they usually bring to me talking points that are of the left-wing media or the dissident right, or in whatever case may be, it's secondhand information that's taking whatever the president and the administration is messaging it and twisting it for their own political ends. The left wants nothing more than to see Trump fail, just like in this situation with the reflecting pool, which always had algae in it and was always a problem in the summertime. And now you have the left-wing media suddenly all over it, and you have allegedly crazy activists going there to vandalize it. That no matter what Trump does in the Iran war, the left is always going to find some fault with it and campaign against it. Now they say that the MoU is a humiliation.
They're saying it's an admission of defeat.
Yeah,
essentially.
And then also the dissident right is doing the same thing, and also the neocons. So it seems like that actually we're in an interesting place where everyone who has their own wants to put their own political spin because they want to position themselves as saying that Trump has done a horrible job with the Iran situation. But I think that of all the presidents, he's the one that refused to kick the can down the road. Something had to be done. And the worst thing that could be done is nothing, and to let the problem continue to fester. And people are complaining that the MoU is nothing like the JCPOA agreement, which, or I should say, is a worse arrangement than the JCPOA deal. But that is nonsense, because that would have expired by now, and it never really had many teeth on it, and
they cheated a lot.
And they cheated, and I think that the presidential administration has been consistent that it's all about Iran not being able to have a nuclear weapon. That's the baseline. And then for people that are complaining that this is happening, Iran's behavior from 1979 to 1983 to the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and having their proxies poison the well of the Middle East to create constant conflict, that is the root of the issue. And you can't turn this around and say that President Trump has created some sort of failure where there was this festering problem that had to be dealt with that nobody wanted to touch. And so I think that much of the communication around this is just a way to spin and stick a knife in Trump, whereas his administration has been consistent, hitting the same note the entire time throughout. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
I mean,
I really like that. I'm going to quote Victor Davis Hanson. So he, in one of his podcasts, one of my favorite classes is an historian. And so he says 2 points when you want to analyze current events. One, never base your analysis on 24 cycle news. And two, actually look at how the outside world is, like, have empirical data. And, CENTCOM is there. So trust CENTCOM. Those guys are there. They have the best equipment. So trust them. They are what America has achieved. They killed the supreme leader. The guy was heavily guarded. One of this guy that I mentioned that was his advisor, he said he was one of the most expensive security things around him was this guy, heavily guarded. They managed to kill him. I mean, imagine how much they can humiliate them. They killed a lot of their IRGC. This is something. It's not nothing. How can you say Trump achieved nothing? I mean, this is just crazy.
I don't know where I think that person's coming from is either a dishonest place on the front end, so coming from the left, or and we've said the dissident right, but I was very much against the so-called panicans when the Operation Epic Fury started. And there's a whole different group that's panicking now, which is everyone outraged that this MoU exists. And I'm like you said, it's not legally binding. A whole bunch of stuff can still transpire. And I get that they wanted regime change in Iran for years, and I want that too. But I'm not willing to go down a very stupid road to get it. I think President Trump is a strategic player, the first we've really had since Nixon. We have to take advantage of every day he is president, and maybe before he leaves the White House, we will indeed get regime change within Iran. But I think that they had looked at the situation, and if 120% inflation, if that doesn't bring about a regime change, given that military and political leadership has been totally wiped out, and their military capacity, terrorist financing capacity severely affected. Considering everything that's happened, if the regime is still standing, the people haven't risen up in that space by now, you're certainly saying no to putting boots on the ground to force it. Because I think President Trump has learned, he didn't learn it personally, he learned it via watching, but he was pretty critical of the nation building forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think he doesn't want to go down that road. This is a very different road than that. And that's what people should have always realized.
And just to build off of that, and this is something that Trump said in his press conference at the G7, talking about not going down stupid roads to try to get regime change in Iran. He said, he brought up Herbert Hoover, Republican president. And he said he doesn't want to end up like Hoover. So look, if we have to get an MoU and have a pause in this operation so that global oil supplies can flow, and that we're not getting into a situation where we're destabilizing the entire global economy because of this operation, that's a perfectly sensible route to take. The Iran question is going to continue so long as the regime is there, and we are the ones that are holding the cards here. So if we want to pause, allow oil to flow, the Iranians need it to flow. They need to sell oil. They need the money. All of the countries that are reliant on the Gulf need it to flow, or the Strait, I should say, need it to flow. So this is not a surrender. This is a strategic move. It's not worth throwing the global economy into a tailspin just to force this operation. So I think, like you said, Trump is being very pragmatic.
That's very fair. What would you think?
I would add to that, they can sell as much as oil they want, but their assets are going to be in a bank. So this is going to calm the oil markets. And the good thing about MoU is that they're not going to get the money. So because America has to, give the OFAC licenses for any bank. They have a lot of, networks in Malaysia, Hong Kong, and they're not going to be able to give them money. So this is a good thing from the MoU. It's not legally binding. It gives the upper hand to America and the lower hand to them. And if that results to something like the Japan style surrender, why not? I mean, you can put a photo up. They can sign their surrender paper, and that's great.
By the way, the end of World War II, I think, forever warped so many people's minds about how wars actually end. That was actually the exception of the rule. Wars rarely end in such a neat little moment like that.
With unconditional surrender. You mean?
No, I'm talking about unconditional surrender.
Yeah. Occupation.
You're on a boat.
Yeah.
You know, you're signing. This is a definite end. Normally, wars peter out and end in stages, and only are truly understood through the lens of history years later, looking back. And it is largely it's a multi-generational conflict, has historically been how wars go about. And you know, like World War I had an ending. We had a nice Treaty of Versailles. We had a conference, one of the most written about and criticized treaties ever. I mean, yes, it was an end. It literally it ended on the 11th day in November of the 11th month at 11 a.m. Talk about an ending, a specific ending, but that was such an unsatisfactory moment. It's set in stage and in motion World War II, an even more devastating global conflict than World War I. So I think those are exceptions to the realm of geopolitics, course of diplomacy, and statecraft, that where Clausewitz is right. War is a continuation of politics by other means. But just because that is so, there's serious heads of state, serious state actors, statecraft. You're going to pull that back and go back into the realm of politics, international diplomacy, when you see the opening and when it makes sense to.
Yeah.
So I got one more question for you.
Wait. I just want to throw in one more example of Trump being pragmatic. A lot of people were complaining that this MoU would give Iran way too much. But in there, when we first of all, it's an MoU. It's not a deal. We still have to get to a deal, and the deal would be part of Trump's red line: no nukes ever,
no enrichment.
Yeah, and no enrichment, no pathway to a nuclear weapon for Iran. And then they would have their sanctions lifted. They would essentially be treated like a normal country. And I think that a lot of people were upset with that language. And Trump also discussed this in his press conference at the G7 regarding, say, Iran having ballistic missiles, Iran having access to world markets. Iran, if they behave and stop pursuing these extreme militaristic goals, they should be able to be allowed to be treated like any other country in the international community and trade and not have sanctions on them forever. And I should say, we shouldn't have our foot on their neck economically and militarily forever. All they have to do is abide by these simple red lines.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people got upset about when Trump mentioned that in his G7 press conference. But I think that's perfectly reasonable. What do you think?
I agree. It's in the context of Iran just behaving like a normal nation. You have your neighbors there. You have UAE, you have Bahrain. They're selling their oil, their gas. They're prosperous. Why don't you want to be like them?
I'm trying to think about their perspective. I'm trying to think about where the Iranians are coming from. Understand your enemy is how you beat your enemy, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, call me out. But so far, I've seen, not even in my lifetime alone, in all of our lifetimes, the allies of Iran be either through civil war, through actual war, through the Arab Spring in 2014, I think it was, 13, I think it was.
Arab Spring was in 2009.
All right. The Arab Spring was still a thing. But regardless, I was 8 years old, Troy. No, I'm trying to think of, like, they have no allies left. They have nobody left. Iraq was invaded in 2003. And I think the same year they took out Saddam. Maybe it was the following.
They were not allies either. They were.
They fought for 10
I would
years.
argue the Iraq War created,
but Troy,
aside for them,
they were united in many aspects.
Well, they fought each other for a decade.
They did. So there's that, and then there's Syria. Maybe they weren't perfect allies.
Yeah.
There's people. Egypt's a good example, I think. And I'm beginning to see kind of a defensive posture taken from them. and now they're being very offensive. But I kind of understand the rationale where all the Eastern nations, excuse me, are being toppled, whether it be by the United States or by Israel. And now you see more and more Middle Eastern countries aligning themselves with the United States and aligning themselves with Israel. And it looks like Iran's the final kind of country holding out in that region that is not necessarily pro-Western or pro-Israel for that matter. Do you think well, I guess what's the best way to phrase this question? Do you think their line of reasoning makes sense? It seems to me like they're the final people holding out.
It doesn't. I mean, look, but we have to ask why.
And I'm not defending them, by the way. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
you know,
why?
by
How
the
do
way.
we let us understand the adversary?
It really goes like in a ideological, religious sense. You really have to take religion seriously in that region. So when you define interest, you should not only define it as material interest, you should also define it as this kind of interest that they see that if they resist, because they're emulating this guy called Hussein, like 1,400 years ago, that he resisted this other, caliph, and when he died, they're going to go to heaven. So, I mean, the real life is there, not here.
Yeah.
So if they resist America, which is, the great Satan, and even if they die, they're still going to get rewarded.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter, like, what happens to them. Whatever you say, they're going to win. It's a saying that whatever you say to these folks, they'll say, we are the winners. But and they look at it that way. They say, this world is not important. The other world is, and we're going to get our reward there. So
Right.
that's how they look at it. And it's interesting when you see their networks, the Shiites in Hezbollah, they have the same mentality. Assad, he was from a Shiite sect in Syria, the Alawites, same mentality. The small Shiite proxies they had in Iraq, same mentality. They're just, breeding these crazy, literally crazy people in that area.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, I brought up Iraq because, again, that's at the time, anti-Western and also anti-Israel. They weren't exactly best friends, but that's the reason I bring up those different countries. When it comes,
want to add, sorry, that just look at how simple things could be, because you have a regime that many of their folks are corrupt. Okay, is it easier for you guys to sell your oil and keep the money under sanctions or evading the sanctions? Of course, it's easier without the sanctions. Like if you guys, make peace with America, you can sell your oil much easier and, not go through all this hassle of, having all these. Why don't you do it? I mean, this is such a simple question. I don't understand, unless you guys are, clearly crazy. But if some of them are not crazy, their whole legitimacy is based on this small group of very determined religious fanatics that are willing to kill people in the streets.
Another thing I would say, and this is what has always put me in the camp of this isn't a repeat of recent history. Iraq is a created state that comes out of World War I.
Yeah.
Iran is backed by a people and a civilization that's the Persian civilization that's 2,000 years old. And I think the people who are
many would say much older, but 4,000?
4,000?
2,500.
2,500?
That's like
Okay.
you have the first
2,500. We'll split the difference. The 2,500 years.
Yeah.
This is an ancient civilization. And I think anyone who looks at the history with the long lens that it deserves and applies that to their geopolitical thinking, I think it's really regrettable that Iran has been captured by this fundamentalist sect in perspective, because imagine, and maybe it's not anytime soon, maybe it will take longer, but whenever it does indeed come back, you don't just like China doesn't totally wipe out. There's still a civilization that predates communism, and the same situation would be there with the ancient Persian civilization, which really, predates most civilizations that are kind of around the world today, which have seen so much change over time. And so I can't help but see the potential for the region and the world in a future date, whenever that is, of when this regime peters out, however it's going to be. I do think there's a much more unified perspective on what an aftermath could be vis-a-vis Iraq, where you had the Sunni element, which is the majority, you had Shia, and then you also had the Kurds, who were had their own statehood ambitions going back to ancient time, World War I. They wanted a state then, have, you know, consistently, honestly, been one of the more reliable partners for the United States, time and time again, have gotten the short end of the stick. But I think we're dealing with a totally different aftermath. Iraq's aftermath being a quagmire was very foreseeable. I don't think Iran's aftermath needs to be like that. I think it can be cleaner. That being said, I think one of the ways it is cleaner is if it's the people doing it rather than presence of a foreign power on the ground looking like occupiers. That right there, I think would bring about. I think it needs to happen. It didn't happen in this window, but that would have been the A+ victory. Instead, it's a B+ victory is still pretty good.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Still pretty good. And I want to ask you the question, like the question of all questions, and then I want to take some questions from our audience on Facebook and YouTube, relating to the club in general, different events throughout the world. MoU. Neither side's going to budge. What will it take to get a deal?
I mean, the red lines are pretty sure. Give up your enrichment program, act like a normal nation, and then you're welcome to the club of nations that want to, you know, do business together.
The reasonable ones.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't do that, as President Trump said, we're going to bomb you again. And, you know, tough luck for you. You know,
there you go. There you go. So it really just comes down to the enrichment.
It's really
essentially.
Bad. Yeah. And I would argue that, look, so this is when we say boots on the ground, immediately everybody goes to American boots on the ground. You don't need that. You can have actually Israeli boots on the ground, and they are willing to go there, and they have actually been there. So last year when they had their 12-day war, there were Israelis and Iranians who were helping them in Tehran and outside that were doing some covert operations. So yeah, you don't need Americans can, you know, America can help Israel with intelligence, logistics, but I think they are very capable of even enacting regime change.
Israel's capable of enacting regime change.
So. Because, you know, for a regime change, all you need is a very determined minority. You don't need you know, majority of people going in the streets.
3% is the number I always see.
Exactly.
You know, batted around.
Yeah.
To basically overturn a state's regime.
And you need the will of the government to collapse, not to be able to, you know, kill the people anymore. Which is exactly what happened in '79. The Shah didn't want to kill anyone, and there was a minority of people very determined.
Is there a good read on the median person in Iran? What they?
It's a great question.
What they? Because that to me is everything. If you get them off, okay, I'm done supporting the government. I'm going to consider that. Where are they sitting there? Are they just sort of like? Are they like us? I think the median American is sitting on the sideline, confused by modern politics. But because they're on the sidelines, whoever's more determined within the two bases is going to largely control things. And then is that base growing vis-a-vis the other one? So what's that median person, you know, thinking? And I don't know if you know the answer to that. I'm not putting you on the spot here. Don't mean to, but what's your speculation?
So
I guess
it's very interesting. So in January, they had an uprising. And who did the uprising? It was the Bazari guys, the people who are, you know, doing business, which are the most conservative in any country. They don't want to lose their business. They did the uprising. And so this is very telling. And then after that, other segments of people, but the regime really cracked down brutally on them. It's reported that around 30 to 40,000 people have been killed. And, you know, if you put yourself in the shoes of the normal Iranians, it's going to say, I don't want to die, you know?
Right.
But if they see the regime weak enough, they will rise. Because after January, I think it was, you know, very clear to anyone, even the gray section of the country, that this is public enemy number one.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of it. So if the regime can be weakened enough, I'm pretty sure the Iranians themselves, and if they get some arms, like a small elite that Israelis can train, I think they will be very easily toppled. I mean, they are paper tiger. Yeah. They're not that strong.
That's fair. That's fair. I know, you know, the 92 million people number comes up. I can't even talk. I got to lock in. 92 million population. However, how many of them are supportive? That's a good question, Troy. Do you guys want to read some comments?
Yeah, what are the
Yeah,
audience?
Let's
What do
get
we
some
got?
let's get
What
us
do
some
we got?
comments. This is not just about Iran. This is about a bunch of stuff. Producer Serge DM'd me in the middle of this conversation. He said, "Hey, we have a lot of comments," and I just looked
A
at
lot
it.
of comments.
A lot of it's about South Africa. We have a lot of that coming up to you shortly. From Christine, I believe her name is Christine. Thank you to the NYYRC for your involvement in South Africa's White Cross Project. Christine, we love you. We love the Afrikaners, folks. I'm seeing here, Sonel.
The next segment, we're going to touch on that.
Yeah, we got a lot coming up on that. So I'm seeing a lot of love from South Africa here.
Wow, thank you guys. We love South Africa.
Love South Africa.
Probably more comments about South Africa than Iran, to be honest with you guys. This is insane. And then I wanted to highlight one person before we get to our next segment, Sarah. Sarah said, my question is related to South Africans already in America, not on refugee status, who saw the dangers and are in asylum process. Can someone maybe hear us and advocate for us? The South Africans being persecuted that are essentially in asylum process. President Trump has, I believe, Troy, I know you know the numbers better than me, admitted pretty much only South Africans so far for asylum.
Yeah, basically. And I honestly, I hope that I think that should continue to be the case. The asylum system has been abused in our country for a long time, but I think South Africans have a legitimate case for asylum. And what I've noticed with those that have come here so far is an incredible appreciation for the American way of life.
Yeah.
And I the word you used to describe this many times in the last year, civilizational kin.
Yeah.
I think's huge. Expand on that.
Yeah, we've had such a horrible immigration system in the US for decades, essentially opening up the floodgates to the entire third world. But the South Africans in particular are very similar to foundational Americans, especially the Americans that pioneered the Midwest and the open territories. Their story has a lot of parallels with the stories of the Afrikaners who settled in Cape Town and then went on the Great Trek north, and they lived in covered wagons. They have the Protestant religious tradition, and they created a civilization out of a wilderness, much like the American pioneers did.
And I want to read a second comment that Sarah left that basically almost mirrors what you said. I myself survived a farm attack and came here to work on H-2A with my children to keep them safe. America has been healing my trauma, and the safety it gives, I could never explain. I am so grateful to the United States of America. Sarah, we love you. We love you. Welcome to the United States.
Thank you so much.
That's so heartwarming.
And
that's
I
like
think, so much. And Amin has said this on a show before, and not to paraphrase what your words, Amin, but you said that something to the effect that America is the force for good in the world. Without America, it's very likely that the world would be run by all sorts of horrible despots.
Absolutely.
That I hope one day to hear from people in Iran, assuming that we can have the A+ ending to this, where the regime and the religious fanatics are toppled and removed from power, and that the Iranians can also have a normal country which can build on that 2,500-year-old tradition of the Persian civilization, which to me is, like you said, Troy, it's regrettable that right now it's in such poor shape, hijacked by these Shia religious fanatics. And we just should take a moment to appreciate America. They put down America. In Julia's reality check, she did a great job of getting some videos together of tourists that have come to visit. When I lived abroad for many years, from 2016 to 2019, the international media was just full of lies and vitriol about what it's like to live in America. If you rely on the news, corporate news, for what is going on in the United States, you would think that it was just a total chaotic fascist dictatorship.
The purge, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when people come and see what America is really like, or people that are aware of what it's really like, they're much more appreciative. So for our South African friends, we hear you. We know about your struggle, and this club is doing whatever we can to bring that to light with our president, Trump. And we're actually putting on our White Cross initiative, our White Cross Memorial in September. I think it's I don't want to get the date wrong, but I think it's in the latter part of September. Where
I think it's late September.
Yeah, we're going to have 3,000 White Crosses bringing awareness to the farm murders in South Africa, put on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. We're going to bring some survivors, and they're going to have a testimonial about what's really going on in South Africa. And we're going to continue bringing awareness to this issue and putting pressure on the South African government to respect the human rights of everyone in South Africa.
Absolutely. Before we go to our next segment, Amin, where can we find you? YouTube, X, Facebook, where can we find you? Instagram?
I'm on Instagram mostly, but I don't tweet or do some stories. So
right. Where can we find your show?
From now on I can do it.
But for real, people need this information. There's so much bad information about what's going on in the Iran war, and almost all of it's a spin to try to attack Trump. So somebody that grew up in Iran, you are Persian, and you're extremely knowledgeable about geopolitics, and you just bring such a reasonable, well thought out explanation to some of these problems that we're facing, and people are confused and they need answers like the ones that you bring, and that's why we keep bringing you on this show. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And I really like what you said about America, and basically, America is the defender of the Western civilization, and the Western civilization is something good. Like, it's achieved incredible things, lower the rates of mortality, higher GDP after the Enlightenment. I mean, why don't you want to be like that? That's and it's only America was defending that. It's Europeans are not doing it. Nobody is doing it. So it's America is doing that. So, and I really think Americans should be proud of that. And the self-hating Americans, I see them sometimes, and I travel a lot to Europe, and I see them acting like that towards the European, and I'm defending America in front of other people. I'm like, don't talk about America like that. They're actually defending this entire civilization, which is a force of good, like literally a force of good. So yeah, I hope patriotism is a virtue. It's an ancient virtue, goes back to the Greeks. So it's good to nurture it.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like the Iran, I won't call it a deal. What's happening with Iran is at a standstill, but making progress. And you know what else is at a standstill, but making progress? Europe. Coming to you, we have a conversation about remigration, a conversation about many other things, the recent summit we had with our president, Stefano Forte, and our conversation with myself and Lorenzo Caccialupi. Coming to you now. Hello and welcome to an exclusive conversation with the New York Young Republican Club. My name is Mario Nicoletto, your host and campaigns chairman of the campaigns committee for the New York Young Republican Club. With me, we have our president, Stefano Forte. How are you?
Pleasure to be on.
Also, I had to write down the pronunciation, I'm being honest. Lorenzo Caccialupi. Do I got that?
Caccialupi.
Beautiful. How are you, man?
All good. Thank you for having me.
I've heard that you're an activist and something of a connoisseur of wolf hunting. Is that true?
Wolf hunter is my surname.
I love it.
That's right. In Italy is Caccialupi in Italian.
Caccialupi.
Why are you LARPing like you're not Italian?
I am half Italian, but I'm very Americanized.
You're very Americanized?
One could make the argument, yes.
Caccialupi. You have to sing it.
Caccialupi.
Caccialupi.
There we go.
Why are we? All right. A lot's in the news, as you two both know, but Stefano, I wanted to give you the floor first.
Yes, absolutely. I'm here to make an exclusive announcement about our White Cross project. Our first ambassador for the project, here with us today, Lorenzo Caccialupi.
Thank you.
Lorenzo, talk to us a little bit about this project and why you decided to join on.
First of all, it is an honor to be an ambassador for this product. First of all, it's an honor to be an ambassador for this project. The reason why I decided to take part of it is that we cannot look the other way. In South Africa, white people, white farmers are being persecuted and killed because of their skin color. There are hundreds of race laws against white people, and we cannot tolerate that. The media have been lying to you about the situation in South Africa, and this cannot continue. We have many people criticizing us, doing fake press, saying that what we are exposing is not real. But when you go on a vacation to South Africa and you go south to surf, of course you're gonna be safe. Of course you're gonna be feeling safe because you go in the richest side of South Africa, in the touristy spot. Of course, it must looks like everything is fine. But if you go around like we did, because we went to Pretoria, we went to Johannesburg, they went to Orania, a city that is being built through the sweat and fatigue of white men, you would know that white people are being persecuted. You would know that the police is corrupted. Because if it weren't for our armed security, I don't know what would have happened to us. You would know that if you were to walk in the center of Pretoria as a white man, you'd be targeted and attacked because we had to flee away from there because they literally wanted to kidnap us. So that's why we are doing this.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about when it comes to the farm murders in South Africa. When we went and we saw the White Cross Monument ourselves, the monument that they claim does not exist, and we did a video down there where I said I'm at the monument that does not exist. We went live as we approached the White Cross Monument. It struck all of us, not only to see a physical manifestation of the grief of so many people in South Africa, but also to hear the stories of survivors of farm attacks. It truly was, it was sad. There was not a dry eye in the place by the time we were done hearing about these attacks. Lorenzo, why do you think the media keeps lying about this? Why do you think the media wants to hide this? Because it's obvious that it's happening. Our great president, President Donald J. Trump, has exposed this in the Oval Office with Cyril Ramaphosa. Why do you think the media keeps lying to people about what's happening in South Africa?
The media keep lies to the people because they have to promote their agenda, their anti-white agenda. The media are crooked, and the only reason why they choose not to cover it is that the victims are white. So it doesn't fit their anti-white agenda. There are two types of people. The ones that are evil, they know what they're doing. They know that they are deceiving people. They know that what they're talking about is fake. And then instead there are the sheep, the so-called brainwashed people, who don't know what the hell is going on, and they're being brainwashed by these evil people who are promoting their agenda. So, Stefano, it's very complicated what we're doing, but we can get through it.
They were so angry that we were exposing them in South Africa that the EEF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, the EFF, excuse me, the Economic Freedom Fighters, they put out a statement essentially calling for my deportation out of the country, calling for the New York Young Republican Club's deportation out of the country. It was the only deportation we don't support. I wonder why they're so afraid about this. And I think I have an answer. The reason why is because they know it will destroy the narrative. The narrative that they have is that only white people can be oppressors. But the truth of the matter is that they are the majority in South Africa, and they have decided to target this group, the Afrikaners, who is a minority in this country. Like you said, there are more race laws on the books now than ever before. And when you have the head of a major party, I'm forgetting his name, but it'll come to me at a certain point, but the head of a Julius Malema, when you have Julius Malema who is chanting, kill the Boer, kill the farmer, people are taking that seriously. If you read Dr. Ernst's book, which I've had the pleasure of reading, so should you, Kill the Boer, there are countless accounts of people being targeted simply because of the color of their skin, simply because they own a farm. It needs to stop, and I think that these white crosses are going to shock the American consciousness when they see it. When they see in Washington, D.C., what we are going to bring, these 3,000 white crosses, I think it will shock them. So, Lorenzo, You have a very big following, right? We need to blast this out so your followers could know about this. There's two things that you could do to help support us. One, you could sponsor a cross. It's only $15 to help us to bring these white crosses down to Washington, D.C. And then number two, you could sign our petition that has a simple plea. We want a special envoy for the Afrikaners and other minority groups in South Africa so we can have an American voice investigating firsthand what is going on. We need this. It will help the Afrikaners tremendously because like you saw down there, they don't want to leave. They want to stay. They want to stay in their homes. They want to have a piece of land for themselves. Talk a little bit about the heart that these people have. Talk a little bit about how courageous they are for wanting to stay and fight.
We talked while we were in South Africa with a community made out of farmers community. These people are left completely by themselves. The police does not help them at all. They are not helped. They are left by themselves by the police. And I've talked, this is maybe one of the most sad story I've heard, with an 18-year-old guy that fought for his life against an intruder, a black intruder, who entered inside his property and the property of his family with guns, with the only scope of stealing and kill him and his family. At 18-year-old, you shouldn't worry about carrying a gun and protect your life by a monster. At 18-year-old, you should be finishing high school. You should go out with your friends. You shouldn't lie. You shouldn't fight for life or death. And this is the reality that many people are living every day in South Africa. We are right now in New York City, and I'm glad to be here with Stefano and this group. While I was at the airport of Denver, Colorado, I was about to get on the plane, and I was checking in my bag. I meet this guy. He tells me, I tell him, oh, I'm from Italy. He tells me, I'm from South Africa. I look at him in the eyes and I said, I know everything. I know what's happening. I know what ANC is doing. I know what EFF is doing. I know that they want to kill. I know they are persecuting your people. I know that they are killing them. His eyes were wet. He got emotional. He said, no one is believing me. People think I'm crazy when I tell what's happening to South Africa. So this is the reality. White people are being targeted. White farmers are being persecuted and killed. We heard dozens and dozens of stories of survivors, people who were victims of this farm attack, people who had their wife or their husband killed, people who had their wife raped in front of them while they were forced watching. Now, in what type of country, in what type of world does this happen? This shouldn't be happening in the first place. In Europe, in the US, these things don't happen. I mean, they're starting to happen because of mass migration. But if we don't do something, this is going to come to our countries as well. And that's why it is very important to cover this topic. And that's why it's very important to show solidarity to these people that are suffering daily because of their skin color. White people are the most persecuted race, and I'm talking about skin color, on earth. We are all the same here. I don't make distinction. Black, white, yellow, pink. I don't care the color of your skin. We have to respect each other. Racism is always wrong, so you don't come with the absurdity of Black Lives Matter, because all lives matter. So enough is enough. We are here, and we are here to make a change.
Yeah, and you touched on something very important, which is that people are going to ask the question, well, why should we care? Who cares what's going on in South Africa? We need to do this, we need to do that. And I made the argument while we were there that South Africa is the model. South Africa is what they want the entire West to become. If you talk to Zoran Mamdani, our mayor, he says that South Africa is the model. So we went down there ourselves to see ourselves what his so-called model is. And what we saw were people being persecuted because of the color of their skin. More race laws on the books now than during the height of apartheid white people in South Africa. So these people are our civilizational kin. They are a Western people that we need to care about. And this is the last thing that we'll talk about this. Why should the West care about what's going on in South Africa? Because my opinion is they're our civilizational kin. We need to support them because if it can happen there, it can happen here. We need to stop it there so that it is not imported here. And I said this line over and over and over. The United States may have created woke, but South Africa perfected it, right? So talk to us about why you think we should care about this issue.
We should care about this issue because we are next, Stefano.
Yes.
When we were walking around the street of Pretoria, when we were walking around the street of Johannesburg, where we got nearly kidnapped, because we are white, we got nearly kidnapped, I saw a similarity of some streets in South Africa with some streets in Italy, with some streets in the US, with some streets in Brussels, where the European Parliament is, by the way, for people who don't know, European Union is destroying our country, but that's another matter. If we don't act, if we don't show our support now, this is going to come against us. Yeah. Because we are seeing right now a shift inside our own countries. We are seeing right now that if you are a white man and something bad happens to you by a migrant, you cannot say it because you're going to be called a racist for speaking out. We have seen in the streets of Johannesburg, in the street of Pretoria, people who hated us. And we are importing through illegal migration, because our government, of course, are complicit. The leftist government, the woke people are complicit of this. We are importing inside our countries people who hate us. People who don't hate us only because of our skin color. We are importing inside our countries people who hate us because of our culture and want to destroy it. And now we're going to talk about this because we have saw the case of Henry Novak. He got killed because of his skin color and the cop arrested him under an accusation of racism. That's what's happening in our country. It's not far from what's happening in South Africa. If we wait 50 years, it's going to happen to our children.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is a perfect segue for the next thing that we're going to be talking about, Mario. If you want to bring up some of the stuff that you have.
Absolutely, there is through mass migration and through, I would argue, replacement by addition. That's my opinion and mine only. The R word is happening all across Europe and the United States, and no, I don't mean retarded. I mean rape. Today, I'm going through this here, and it's baffling for me to even read it. Rape gang inquiry claims grooming gangs operated in 149 UK local authority areas. Lorenzo, I know you have some very strong feelings about this.
Over 250,000 girls, over 250,000, a quarter of a million underage girls, and those are only the ones we know about, have been raped by Muslim grooming gangs.
Yep.
People are saying, no, you cannot say Muslim grooming gangs. If they are Muslim grooming gangs, what has happened, a fact, cannot be racism, because 87 to 95% of offenders, of these rapists, they were Muslims. Yep. A report has been published, and I thank Restore for that, I thank Reform for that. A report has been published of over 200 pages where there are all people who survived talking about what happened. The police is complicit. The social service were complicit. We have even the testimonial of this girl saying the police brought this kid to them and told them, have fun. We have hundreds of testimonials. Underage girl being abused by dozens of men at the same time. Underage girl being abused and then killed. Underage girl being threatened with, after I'm done raping you, you're gonna be eaten by pigs. Underage girl being mocked while raped for wearing the cross. Underage girl being exposed, being victims of the worst torture you would ever imagine. underage girl being breaded with the hem of Mohammed for saying this is our property now. And then they would have been raped again and again. And these people, thousands of people, are walking among us. They're walking among British people. When Keir Starmer was, now I don't remember the name, but when Keir Starmer was...
It was essentially the Attorney General.
Exactly.
It was essentially the Attorney General.
When he was responsible, he let walk free inside the street, in the street of London, in the street of England, 13,000 suspects of gang rapes and pedophiles. Keir Starmer is complicit. Keir Starmer should resign. He should be in prison for high treason towards his country and toward his own people. He's as guilty as them, maybe even more, for covering this up. All the elite is corrupt in the UK. We have the head of the mayor of conquered Londistan, the Sadiq Khan. I cannot even pronounce his name because surely this guy is not British. This guy is not British. He's a shame for the British country. This guy, when he was asked about the grooming gangs, and this is something, I know it, I'm from Italy, you know you're from the US, you know you're from the US, everyone knows about grooming gangs. When he was asked, he said, what are you talking about? Yeah, for sure we have some... He was asked this question again and again, and he was denying the existence of grooming gangs. What type of evil person you must be to cover up the existence of grooming gangs?
It's disgusting.
Yeah, it is disgusting. And let me just add this here, is that we need to come to a conclusion as a civilization that Muslims are incompatible with Western civilization. That's the bottom line. We cannot keep importing millions of Muslims into our country. When you see these grooming gangs, this did not happen by accident. Like Lorenzo said, the authorities are complicit in this. Keir Starmer should be spending the rest of his life in a jail cell for the travesty that this is. And you know who the #1 victim of mass migration is? The #1 victim is the ones who are the most vulnerable amongst us. Children, women who are being raped. If it's not, if this doesn't end mass migration in the UK, nothing will. Nothing will. So after seeing these stories, women raped by dogs, infants, and the police doing absolutely nothing. And like Lorenzo said, handing them back over and saying, oh, have fun, like it's a joke. It's ridiculous. It's wrong. And Europe really needs to take a hard look at itself and decide right now. The governments of Europe need to decide right now. Are we for Europeans or are we for migrants? Because if you're for migrants, keep doing what you're doing. If you're for Europeans, you change course immediately. Every single one of these people that are involved in these grooming gangs should be chemically castrated and sent back to their country of origin. That's exactly what needs to happen to them. And furthermore, even if they weren't involved and they're in the country illegally, send them back. They need to go back home. They cannot stay here. They will never, ever assimilate into our culture, ever. They need to go back home.
And Stefano, I would like to add something. What makes this history even worse is that fathers, so could be us in a couple of years, fathers, after knowing their kid was being raped, they went to rescue them. It happened multiple times that fathers went to rescue them. They got arrested for rescuing their own kids. Now, what does father has to do after being arrested for rescuing their own kids? No one wanted to report this for avoiding being racist. But do we realize the atrocity? I have no words for this. We have no words for this.
Yeah, in order to save the West, we're gonna have to make some Instagram girls very angry, but that's okay. We have to save our countries, and at the risk of being mean or sounding a certain way or being called racist, we need to call it out as a fact. We need to call it out as a fact. Europe is for Europeans. Europe is Christian. There cannot be assimilation with Muslims that are entering the country. It's not going to happen. And also, this is another thing that I want to bring up. Zohran Mamdani is A-OK bringing up every third world grievance that he may have. When he was talking about the King of England, he was talking about some diamond that he wanted returned back to India, right? He's willing to talk about all of this. Not a peep about the rape gangs. Not a peep about the rape gangs. And why didn't he say a word about this? Because he knows it's going to be egg on his face. He's willing to call out every other group except his own. They can do no wrong. So, look, we're in a very difficult situation, and that's why every time I come back from Europe, I'm happy that the United States is not in as bad of a mess as Europe is. And because we have proper leadership with President Trump, who's actually deporting people, people are self-deporting. There's a way that this is working, but there needs to be an answer for Europe, because right now there is no answer. There is no response. How do they fix this? They need proper leadership, and I hope in the next elections they right this wrong.
Yeah, it's clear Europe is in very dire straits, and I feel as if the only people responsible are not even the migrants. They're not migrants; they're illegal aliens. But the only people responsible for facilitating the process are the same people that trained the police officers that assisted, I would argue, in the death of Henry Novak. And that was our next subject, where I'm sure many of you seen the viral video on X or Instagram or Telegram, where Henry Novak says, "I can't breathe, I've been stabbed, I can't breathe, I've been stabbed." And the police officer grins and says, "Sure you have been, mate." We still have stories coming out, and I have a headline here. All it says is Henry Novak murder, what we know so far. Interesting stuff, because I thought that we knew he was murdered by an Islamist who should be deported yesterday. Guys, your thoughts?
Well, he was murdered by a Sikh.
By a Sikh.
Well, they got to go too.
He was murdered
Honestly,
by a Sikh.
sorry, I hate to say it.
He was murdered by a Sikh.
So he was stabbed by a Sikh with one of the ceremony knife. They use a 21 centimeter blade. We have all seen the image. We have all seen. He said, "I can't breathe." But I'm gonna tell you now the worst thing about what happened to Henry Novak. The worst thing that happened to Henry Novak was not being stabbed, but was the reaction of the world to it. Only conservative people had the courage. Only conservative people spoke up about Henry Novak. Keir Starmer the traitor, when the criminal George Floyd died because of fentanyl overdose after the cop did the normal procedure for arresting any criminal, also because here we are talking about a criminal with a long history behind his shoulder.
Held a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach.
When the criminal George Floyd died, Keir Starmer knelt for him. Politicians all over the world knelt for him. In my class, professor told me to do a minute of silence for a criminal who died because of fentanyl overdose who resisted an arrest. For Henry Novak, no one said anything. Inside the European Parliament, inside every parliament, Black Lives Matter, kneeling for them. For Henry Novak, no one said anything. And Henry Novak is just an example, because we have had Irina Zutruska, killed by that man, and after killing her, he said, "I got that white bitch," because Irina was killed because of her skin color. We have an endless list of people being killed because of their skin color, people being killed because they're white. And now our government, they don't do anything because they don't promote their anti-white agenda. We have all over Europe, politicians knelt for Henry Novak, even Keir Starmer, all over the world, all over Europe, people knelt for the criminal George Floyd. Even Keir Starmer, that is not even from the US, he knelt for George Floyd. When Henry Novak died, Keir Starmer, not even once, he didn't even say, "Oh yeah, what happened is horrific." You know what he said? But you cannot use it in your favor to protest. What? For him, the biggest problem is that people are protesting for that. Not about the fact that there is a two-tier policing in England and is coming also to our countries now. Henry Novak was killed not only by that bastard, by that criminal who stabbed him. Eli Novak was killed by all these politicians, by all these woke people who decided not to talk about him.
Exactly. And then you have all those Western politicians who are basically worshiping St. Floyd in the time of 2020, 2021. And then at the same time, my man, they ban knives for everybody, except for, I made a mistake, Sikhs, not Muslim Sikhs, where you're able to have a ceremonial blade. And it's like, is that going to fix the problem? Just by allowing one group of people who are known to be very violent and in many cases unintelligent with their knives to be stabbing people?
Well, I'm going to take umbrage with that. Hold on. I'm going to take umbrage with that. I will say that the reaction, I saw a lot of reactions by the Sikh community were very upset.
I'm saying the migrant Sikhs.
No, but even still, there were many. They're typically not violent, right? I've just my own.
We have to break a spirit in their favor. Because
but what I will say is that there was, when they heard about this, they were pissed, right? They put out plenty of videos saying this does not represent us, to give them the benefit of the doubt over a lot of other things that have happened. I will say that. But the idea of stabbing somebody and then banning the knife is totally ridiculous, right? It's totally ridiculous. I agree with that 110%. This was done because there is a culture in the UK that says that being racist is the ultimate crime. If you are racist, that trumps anything else. So this poor kid is dying there, bleeding out on the ground.
Soaking in his own blood.
Soaking in his own blood. And for the mere hint of perhaps he was racist, the police were willing to handcuff him, would not give him the benefit of the doubt, right? That I think is the biggest issue here, right? Of course, there's going to be conversations about, do we ban knives? Do we ban this? Here in America, we have guns, right? We have plenty of guns here in the United States. We're not talking about banning guns. We're not talking about banning knives. Why? Because we want a certain type of migrant, that is a certain type of people that are coming into the country. Right now, I would argue that we shouldn't have anybody coming into the country.
Amen.
Right? But the idea that we're going to start banning things and then everyone's going to be peaceful, everyone's going to find a way to find a knife, everyone's going to find a way to find a gun, right? It's just what it is. So in the case of Henry Novak, it is the culture that the British government has created where being a racist is the ultimate sin. Nothing else trumps that, right? So they wouldn't even give one of their own the benefit of the doubt, an Englishman, the benefit of the doubt, right? Well, no, yeah, but anyway.
But they've admitted it, Stefano.
Yeah,
they've admitted it. Police has been trained with having a different approach with migrants. And I want to break a spirit in favor of the Sikh community. I have a really dear friend of mine. He's a Sikh man. Now we're going to put it somewhere, his restaurant. He has a restaurant in London, and he's being persecuted by the Muslim community because he is showing a sign. And in these signs, there is simply written, "I'm proudly not serving halal meat." And he is being assaulted by Muslims for this sign. Muslims have all over the city shops where they only sell halal meat. And since he's not selling it and he wrote a sign about it, his shop is being targeted, raided, destroyed, vandalized by Muslim people. And here again, he is the one who is being arrested for racism, not the other. That's what's happening in England. It's done. This government has failed its people. Years of woke, years of anti-white propaganda, years of an agenda that is destroying the country has ruined it. And we are seeing it when there are marches in England. They have some of the biggest marches for United Kingdom, where they all wear a British flag. The government is trying to say, those are marches done by far-right activists, far-right agitators. These marches, children go there, family go there, people like this guy, this Sikh man who proudly waves the British flag, because those are the migrants we want. We want the migrants that come, they embrace our culture, they contribute to our society, they love our country, that are willing to defend their country with their own life. We want this migrant. We don't want the migrant that are here to destroy us. Because migration without assimilation, it's invasion. Migration without assimilation, it's invasion. So we don't want those people here. We want people who come to our country, respect the law, assimilate to our culture, and are ready to defend it.
And another example of police, as we spoke about before, I don't know if you were here, Steph, another example of police in absolute dereliction of their duty. I think this was yesterday, Lorenzo. Polish activists, they don't mention they were carrying a cross, interestingly enough.
Catholic Polish activists.
Catholic Polish activists beaten by Berlin police at World War II memorial. And if you watch the video again on X or Instagram or wherever you find your videos, it's just unnecessarily violent, where the German police are wailing on the Polish activists and beating the crap out of them. And for what reason? Because they were carrying a cross.
You know, I gotta tell you, German police, it's I would say it's divided. I know people inside the police force in Germany who are conservative guys. They know what they're doing. They know they want to serve the country, and they would never do what these cops, what these. I don't want to say things to offend the cops, but these people do not represent the cops who fight for their country and the cops who fight to defend their citizen. What we have seen is disgusting. These Polish Catholic people, common people like us, were simply carrying a cross to remember the victims, the Polish victim during Second World War, and they got assaulted, beaten up by the police for carrying a cross. This is what's happening. We Christian people are being persecuted all over around the world. Christianity is the most persecuted religion around the world, and now it's coming also to Europe. Now it's coming also to Europe, in Canada. In Canada now, quoting the Bible is going to be illegal. That's what they're trying to do. In America, in some states, they want to demonize the Bible. They want to say that you are promoting hate speech. So the answer to this is, you want us to stay silent about our religion? We're going to be louder. I'm proud to be Catholic. When I was in last year of high school, I had a professor, who I'm not going to say the name. I raised my hand to ask a question. Before letting me speak, he said, Lorenzo, yes, ask the question, but before, please, remove your cross. Remove your cross. It's really disturbing to me. I don't want you to ask the question. I don't want to look at the cross. Please take it away. I thought I was 18-year-old. I thought he was kidding, Stefano. I look at him, I know it's a joke. Okay, so my question is, no. You don't understand. If you don't take off your cross, you cannot ask the question. So my answer to this communist professor, that I'm not gonna say the name out of respect for the school, not for him, I told him, you know what, professor, I was raised Catholic. I would die for this faith. I would have myself killed rather than deny my faith. My parents are together in an amazing marriage because of this faith. They have kids because of this faith. And you are telling me to remove the cross when you have also students who wear an hijab and you don't tell them to remove it? Fuck off. I walked out of the class. He told me I would have had serious consequences. I came back with the dean of the high school. So this is the message for Christian people. Raise your heads. Before coming here in New York, I was in Arizona, Scottsdale. I hiked a mountain with my friend Wesley Scott, and we hiked a mountain, camelback, with a cross on our shoulder. And we planted the cross on top of the mountain, because Jesus is king. He has to be in the highest point of every city in Italy. In Italy, on top of our mountains, we have cross. The cross of Jesus Christ should be on top of every mountain. And that's why we did that in camelback. We put the cross in camelback to give a signal. And the signal is that we are not going to turn, we are not going to give our back, we're not going to turn the other way for all Christians who are being persecuted around the world. Christians are being persecuted and killed around the world in Nigeria, in Ethiopia, in all the Middle Eastern countries, mostly of the Middle Eastern country, because of their faith. In North Africa, they're being persecuted and killed for their religion. Churches are being burned down. And this is coming to our countries. That's what people don't understand. That when you're going to realize that, it's going to be too late.
Yeah.
The Pope today, after visiting, and I'm sorry to say this because I'm Catholic, after visiting the second or the third biggest mosque in the world, he gave a speech saying, we should perhaps be a bit less fearful of Islam. He's saying that knowing, because I assume he knows, that Christians in Nigeria are being killed every day by Islamist terrorists. Christians are being beaten by Sudanese terrorists. Christians are being killed in big parts of Middle East by terrorists. We are having terrorist attack in Europe almost, I'm not saying every week, but every year in the last 10 years, we have had multiple terrorist attack in Europe connected to illegal mass migration. Europe is dying. Europe, if we don't wake up now, this is going to be the last. This is going to be one of our last speech. We are dying. Europe is dying. You give it 20 years, it's going to be lost if we don't do something now. 2 popes ago, not Francis, Benedict XVI, I believe, he made an amazing speech. He said, the decay of the West. We are rating, I don't know why, people are rating their society. The West people hate themselves. That was a respectable pope. Not a pope that tells us to be less fearful of Islam when we are dying. Not a pope that tells us that we are bigot if we want immigration or if we want to send back illegal migrants. So this pope, it seems like he's doing politics rather than a pope. Because you come to me, you tell me I have to be, and this is crazy, guys, you tell me I have to be respectable when it's about migrant, but I tell you something, I'm from Roma. I know very well Vatican City. Vatican City is an independent city inside Roma, Stefano. This is crazy. Yeah. Outside the Vatican City, and I'm talking like 1 meter away, like this is Vatican City, this is Roma, there are migrants who are scamming people, harassing people, and demanding money from people.
Yeah.
Outside, they're doing all these criminal activities, and they're doing it undisturbed because our police either can do or doesn't want to do is not managing to stop what's happening. As soon as they step a single foot inside the Vatican, the security kick them out immediately. So you want to welcome them? Welcome them inside the Vatican. Welcome them inside the Vatican. You have millions, billions of euros. Welcome them inside the Vatican. We are having in Roma, they're destroying our city, but the Vatican, of course, is never going to tell you that. As soon as a migrant who is committing a fraud steps foot inside the Vatican, he's going to be kicked out. Instead, in Roma, it's happening every day, but he's telling us to welcome them. You can welcome them inside the Vatican. Make them sleep in the room next to yours, instead of speaking.
And I think an important point to make is that, you know, I have a tendency to say some inflammatory things, and maybe we all do, right? But this is not said out of hate. I'm also Catholic, by the way. I agree with you 1,000% on. I don't agree with his remarks either. So that's 2 of us. This is not said out of hate for different groups of people, whether you're black, white, yellow, purple.
Brother,
Navi doesn't make a difference.
My best friend Fabian is from Cuba. He's black. I don't care about your skin color. He has a business activity. He works his ass off every day. It's not about skin color. It's about culture as well.
Of course.
Because my friend, I would die for my friend. If he needed something, I would die for him. It's one of my best friends, Fabian from Cuba. He's in Italy, and I dare you to try to kick him out. He deserves to be in Italy, not these animals who come to rape our women.
Absolutely. It's said out of love, though.
Of
love
course.
for our people,
It's
love for
our
Europe,
people.
love for the United States of America. I don't want that to get misconstrued when your case or my case, you know. But that almost perfectly segues into one of our last topics, and I think you're going to really like this, both of you. Tens of thousands of people rally in Europe over migration debate. This was put out 4 days ago. I saw Rome. It was explosive. I think it said like nearly 20,000 people were there, and the images are incredible. What do you think about the remigration movement, about them being in the streets, pushing for the migration debate? I mean, you're on the front lines. You're in Rome.
So, I'm going to tell you something. In Italy, we have 339,000 illegal migrants that are free to walk around my country undisturbed. 339,000 illegal migrants are committing 28% of total crimes in Italy. They represent 0.5/0.6% of the population, and they are committing 28% of total crime in Italy. They must be sent back. They must go away. They must be sent back to their country of origin. We are deciding not to do it.
Yeah.
When we decide not to do it, It's our fault because we could drop immediately by 28%. We could remove this 28% of crimes in one day. And people say, no, but you can't. Shut up! In one day, you could wipe out 28% of crimes who are being committed in Italy by people who should not be in Italy. 339,000 people, they represent 0.5% of total Italian population. They are committed 28% of crimes. They have to go back immediately. It's not even a discussion. This is not politics. This is a common sense. Recently, we had a tourist from Dominican Republic. She was kidnapped by a group of illegal migrants. She got raped for 72 hours. She managed to escape. She called the police. When the police went there, they found 20, 30 illegal migrants in an abandoned building. They have to go away. They have to go away. And this is said not out of hate. I love people. I love my people. I want them to be safe. I want my children to be safe. I want women in my country to be safe. You cannot continue to do this because you are destroying our countries. And Italy is way better off than others. Because you don't understand that in Italy we are like 20 years behind France. We are 20 years behind England, 20 years behind Brussels, Spain, that just legalized over 1 million people who came illegally. We are destroying Europe, guys. We are destroying Europe. There's not going to be a Europe left to defend if we continue this way. Yep. And that's why the left did a good job with brainwashing people, because they think we are crazy for stating facts.
Absolutely, Steph.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, they're trying to debase the native populations of these countries with people that have nothing in common with them. That's essentially what it is. And look, 300,000 migrants is easy to get rid of, right? That's easy. In our country, how many illegal migrants do we have? We're looking at upwards of 50 million illegal migrants in the country. Higher. We're looking at what are we looking at right now?
Greg Bavino says it could be higher than 100 million.
Yeah, he's saying it could be higher than 100 million. It could be, let's call it 80 million, right? 80 million illegal migrants in our country that we're going to have to ship out of here.
Yeah.
Right? And the only thing that's stopping us from doing that is the political will necessary. President Trump won in 2024 on mass deportations. That is how he won. We need the political will necessary to get these people out of the country. Greg Bavino, a patriot. King. Oh, we got some issues here.
We got some John Doyle on the screen.
We got some John.
We can cut this out. It's fine.
This is free-form jazz, ladies and gentlemen.
Hold up. I'm scared of women. We should keep that on there. What happened?
Replay the video.
Oh, the video ended.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. Give me a sec. Let me try to. No, this is not. Thank God, this is not.
So I don't know if I'm being too loud.
No, you're being perfect. You're being exactly the way you need to be.
I shouldn't have said what I said about the people being violent.
Huh?
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Oh wait. Oh.
There you go.
I'm sorry. I don't know how technology.
Hear that, and they're gonna laugh, and they're gonna say, "Oh well, you know, how are we gonna denaturalize these people? What even is American culture?" There is an American culture that is loud and proud, and when you go to Europe, they know it. They understand American culture. Maybe I would even argue that in Europe, when they see us, they understand us a little better than most leftists see us that are citizens of the United States. So we need to understand that this is mass migration is violence. It is violence towards the people that are the most vulnerable. If we don't do something about it now, we are going to end up like Europe. We're going to end up like the UK.
Stefano, you are absolutely right. Remigration is not an act of hate, but is an act of love of people inside your country.
Amen.
I tell you who should be sent back. All illegal aliens in our territory should be sent back. All migrants that migrated to our country illegally and then now are, thanks to our woke government, legal on our soil and are not assimilating and are not working and are committing crime should go back.
Afuera.
All people that have a double citizenship who commit a crime should be revoked their citizenship and go back. We recently had a terrorist attack in Modena. People don't want to call it a terrorist attack. This guy basically, he sent hateful messages against Christian. He said, "You bastard, I'm gonna burn you and the cross of your God." He did a terrorist attack. He drove the car into a crowd. 2 women lost their legs. The left is trying to say he was just crazy. Of course, that's what they do. This is the same loophole they use every time. He has double citizenship. He has to be sent back to his country. For a serious crime, your citizenship should be revoked. If you don't assimilate, you should go back. So, all illegal aliens, all people who come here legally and are committing crimes and are not assimilating should go back to their country of origin. If you migrate from Nigeria to Italy, we don't want the criminal that are coming. We want doctors. Do you want to import doctors? Would you be happy if 1,000 doctors from Nigeria that are going to help you fight the cancer are coming? I would be happy. I wouldn't be happy.
Keep it so real. I'm not letting them in.
We're already getting the doctors, lawyers, and
America
engineers.
is closed.
Okay,
America's closed.
I tell you something. I would be happy if 1,000 people from Africa, doctors, were to come to Europe to help and cure our people. I wouldn't be happy with 1,000 people from Africa entering to Europe and doing what they're doing. So raping, stabbing, selling drugs. That's not okay.
That's why I'm so optimistic. And I'll be honest, in the past I wasn't. In the past I was a panickin, right? I'm so optimistic about President Trump because for the 6th executive month in a row, the only asylum seeker he's allowed in have been white Afrikaners, European originating Afrikaners, so basically just white Afrikaners. And I believe, am I correct about that?
Yeah, you're 100% correct about that. Could I just add something in here?
Totally.
Because I think that what we're seeing now is the clash of civilizations. We are seeing the Muslim world and the Western world clash. And I truly believe in my heart that the Western world will come out on top. And I think there's one reason why, is because of our faith in Jesus Christ. I think that is the reason why we are going to come out on top. There have been plenty of men that have wanted to be God, but there's been only one God that has made himself man, who willingly took the cross for our sins, who willingly stepped up and said, it's done. I'll do it. The West, in this Christian vein, will be successful because we truly do have God on our side. When they talk about the Prophet Muhammad claiming that, oh, look, he's truly the prophet of God. Look how many great victories he won. Christ won not a single earthly victory. He did not command an army. He commanded 12 apostles and some more, but the 12 apostles that he had learning from him, teaching that he was teaching. He did not command earthly victories. He had one battle, and that was the battle of life over death. And he defeated death when he took the cross, when he took on the cross. And there was a great sermon from my priest that I recollect to on Lazarus Saturday when he talks about Christ saying, "Lazarus, come out." And he says that the tomb is warm and the tomb is comfy even. And when you hear the voice of Christ saying, "Lazarus, come out," that could be any single one of us who are living in sin that must come out, right? And that's not to me to say that I'm a saint or that I don't have my wrongs. Of course I do. But I think collectively, as the West, we must hear the voice of Christ saying, "Lazarus, come out. West, come out. Find yourself again. Find who you are again." The only way we will win this victory is by total and complete submission to Christ. Once we do that, once we rededicate the West back to Christ, back to our most holy lady, the Theotokos, the Virgin Mary, then we can begin to win these victories. Then we will have right on our side. But until then, we have an enemy that is zealous in their faith, and we have become lukewarm. We cannot become lukewarm in our faith anymore. We must be completely and totally devoted to what made the West, and that is Christianity.
It's very fair. It's very fair. I have 2 more topics on here, and I feel like it does wrap back around better to include this one. In Belfast, we talked about this on Sunday. We do have Gregory Bavino, Stefano Forte, and other guests joining the Remigration Summit, but I do want to touch on the Belfast before we do anything else. I'm reading here from, you're going to love this, and that's definitely irony, from The Guardian. I know. I had to pick the best one. I'm sorry. I had to pick the best one.
The Guardian loves me.
I'm not kidding, my man. I'm not kidding, Stefano. Riots and racism. Why is the United Kingdom burning? Daniel, I believe it's Boffy, chief reporter. Daniel, poor job already, man. Poor job already.
Yeah.
So the claims of, as a matter of fact, as you said before, claims of a two-tier policing and uncontrolled immigration, may not be, guys, I'm blind, born out of the facts, but has not stopped them being played up for political ends. Basically what they're saying is the attempted beheading of the Irishman, and I believe it was Belfast as well, is being played up for political points.
Northern Ireland. This is not
Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Northern Ireland. So
it's part of the UK.
It is
going to be a
part
lot of Irish people very angry at you. No, well, you said no. Well, you
I said Belfast.
You
I messed the city up. I'm sorry, Southern Ireland folks. Yeah, I'm Polish.
You just
and
took a
Italian,
position.
Guys. I just took a position. I'm Polish and Italian. Okay, but no, we have a two-tiered policing system. That's true. Okay, uncontrolled immigration. That's absolutely true. I couldn't even delineate what a Sikh and a Islamist were before, right? What do we think about, how do we stop this? Are the riots justifiable? The violence obviously is not justifiable. Is the anger just justifiable? Does the anger make sense? Should we have that anger?
Yeah, let me just say something very quickly. You keep saying that you're Italian and Polish. I don't believe the Polish thing at all, considering you look like exactly what a Roman centurion under Julius Caesar would look like. You are what conquered the Gauls. In Gaul, you look exactly like somebody has to put an AI.
That's me.
Somebody needs to put an AI thing of you in a Roman centurion's outfit. You have the height for it too. Anyway, what you're bringing up now, yes, the anger is completely and totally justified. Do we like violence? We do not like violence. We do not condone violence.
Peacefully and patriotically.
Peacefully and patriotically, as our president said. But these people feel like they're not being heard. These people feel like they're not being heard. These people feel like they have no other outlet. Who do they vote for in order for this to stop? And this is a very big issue. It's like, what party is going to have the political will necessary to mass deport the people that need to go home? The people want it. They're yelling for it. And yet the government won't do what the people want, right? So, look, we saw what happened in Minnesota. We saw what happened in plenty of these other places where essentially ICE was like, this is too much, right? And leaders didn't have the political will necessary to do what they needed to do. So this is why people are so angry, is because there's no party that's claiming that they're going to get rid of these people other than Restore and Reform, right? Restore and Reform are the only two parties, and I think in the next round of elections, you know, the woke Labor Party is in for a real reckoning.
Millions must go. That's what Rupert Lowe said. Millions.
Yes. Millions.
Aim high, vote low. I love it. Yeah. Millions got to go. Well, listen, one final question before we wrap this.
Yes.
I never ask people this. I probably should begin asking it. Where can we find you on social media, Stefano?
You could find me at Stefano L. Forte on Instagram, and you could also find me at Stefano L. Forte on X as well.
Very easy. Lorenzo, where can we find you?
Caccialupi _ Lorenzo.
Spell that for the people.
Very CACCIALUPI _ LORENZO. My spelling is what it is.
I need you to follow Stefano Forte on X, on Instagram. I need you to follow Lorenzo on Instagram. You have X too?
I recently started it, yes.
And X. What's your X, Lorenzo?
I don't Lorenzo something, I don't remember.
Follow him on X anyway. My name is Mario Nicoletto, and for little old me, all I want you to follow is NYYRC _ campaigns to catch up with all of our campaign activities from Staten Island all the way to the Bronx. We are campaigning everywhere. Thank you so much for watching our exclusive NYYRC interview. Thank you so much to Stefano and to Lorenzo for joining us. Back to you. Thank you for watching that exclusive interview with myself, our president, Stefano Forte, and I always mess the name up. It's Lorenzo Caccialupi. Hopefully I've redeemed myself for those sins. I wanted to read a couple comments, and then I'm going to sign our show out. Thomas, I got your text, bro. Don't worry. Mr. Kellogg, I got your texts. I'm going to get to you in just 1 second. We got Baptized by Jonah on YouTube is saying, vote Rupert to deport Sia Youssef. Very true. Very true. If millions must go, millions must go. Rupert Lowe is the premier idea of a candidate in the UK, in my view. I love Nigel Farage. I love the Reform Party. I think that the United Kingdom's gone too far down the barrel of civilizational suicide. We need to vote and restore Britain, or at least a coalition government. Totally. So true. So true. Thomas Kellogg, I finally got to you, bro. New York City is a clear example of how we are being replaced by people who aren't assimilating into our country. And it's so true. You know, next time you're in the city, Thomas, I want you to go to Jackson Heights. There's a place called Diversity Plaza. I'll leave it at that. But, you know, Troy Olson said recently, you know, a lot of what happens in New York City is not directly translatable to the rest of the United States. New York City is not America, right? And it's like, this is happening in Los Angeles. It's happening in DC. It's happening in Miami, Atlanta, whatever. We just got to get used to it. Unless we have those mass deportations, the demographic changes are not going to be stopped. We need to be deporting, at least millions of people. So far, it's not happening at the pace I would like personally, but we need to be deporting a lot more people, and quite frankly, denaturalizing a lot of people too, and that includes people like Zohran Mamdani. We frankly should have denaturalized and deported him when we had the shot. I think that's all I got. I saw a third one, but I'll leave it be. Thank you guys so much for watching the New York Young Republican Club podcast. Before I let you go, I got to tell you something. Do you like suits and ties? Do you like martinis? Do you like great speakers and a great night? Good. We're on the same page, big guy. What I need you to do is go to NYYRC.com/events. That's NYYRC.com/events. And I need you to buy a ticket to our 114th annual gala. It's on December 12th of this year. You got to buy your ticket. If you're not buying, you're missing out. Oh, man. Thank you guys so much for watching the New York Young Republican Club podcast. My name is Mario Nicoletto. Huge thank you to our crew, Ian. We got Serge. We got Yuri here. And another thank you to our guests. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless the New York Young Republican Club. And God bless the United States of America.